Captain Eva Rostova gazed out at the lush violet canopy that stretched across Xylos's northern hemisphere. The forest seemed to pulse with life, bioluminescent veins running through the foliage like a circulatory system for the entire planet. After 3 years stationed here as the human expedition's chief xenolinguist, she still found herself captivated by the alien beauty of this world. The diplomatic outpost sat at the edge of Sylvan territory, an elegant structure that blended human engineering with the organic architecture favored by the native inhabitants. The Sylvans had been accommodating hosts, if somewhat reserved. Their species lived for centuries, their bodies evolving slowly in harmony with their surroundings. Their society built on complex biological technologies and even more complex social rituals. Eva had been instrumental in establishing what could generously be called a functional diplomatic relationship. The Sylvans found humans fascinating but somewhat alarming. Creatures whose lives burned hot and brief like emergency flares, who built with metal and circuitry rather than grown materials, who spoke their thoughts with shocking directness. Captain Rostova, they're waiting for you in the ceremonial grove. Eva turned from the viewport to face Lieutenant Kim. Thank you, Lieutenant. I'll be right there. She straightened her formal uniform jacket. Tonight's farewell ceremony marked the end of her 3-year posting. Tomorrow she would board the transport vessel returning to Centauri Station, leaving Xylos and its enigmatic inhabitants behind. The ceremonial grove stood at the center of the nearby Sylvan settlement, a circular clearing surrounded by towering trees whose branches intertwined overhead, creating a natural dome. Bioluminescent flowers cast a soft blue glow over the assembled dignitaries from both species. Elder the Los, the Sylvan representative who had worked most closely with Eva, stepped forward to greet her. Like all Sylvans, the Los stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that shifted between teal and violet, depending on the light. The delicate, branch-like protrusions that framed their faces, sensory organs that picked up electrical impulses and pheromones, twitched slightly, indicating what Eva had learned to recognize as respectful attention. Captain Rostova, the Los said, their voice a melodious hum that seemed to resonate from somewhere deep within their chest. We gather to honor your service as bridge speaker between our peoples. The way of understanding has been strengthened by your presence. The formal exchange of gifts and speeches proceeded as planned. Eva had prepared carefully for this moment, knowing that proper adherence to Sylvan ritual was crucial. She spoke the traditional phrases of gratitude and commitment to ongoing cooperation, accepted the ceremonial living brooch that would forever bear witness to her time on Xylos, and presented the delegation with artifacts from Earth carefully selected for their cultural significance, without potential for misunderstanding. As the ceremony concluded and attendees began to mingle more informally, Eva felt a gentle touch on her arm. She turned to find a young Sylvan regarding her with wide, curious eyes. Eva recognized her immediately. Hello, Lyra. Lyra was the youngest Sylvan regularly permitted at diplomatic functions, the equivalent of perhaps 14 or 15 Earth years, though Eva knew she was actually closer to 50. The daughter of a prominent family lineage, the Keepers of the Starweave, Lyra had attached herself to Eva almost from the beginning, fascinated by humans and their ways. You're really leaving tomorrow? Lyra asked, her command of English nearly flawless after years of study with Eva. Yes, my assignment here is complete. Eva smiled gently. But don't worry, another human linguist will take my place. You can continue your studies. Lyra's facial appendages drooped slightly. It won't be the same. The others don't understand the ephemer like you do. The ephemer, the ephemeral nature of human life and perception, was a concept Lyra had become fascinated with. While most Sylvans viewed the human lifespan with a mixture of pity and mild horror, Lyra found it compelling, even beautiful in its intensity. You've taught me much about your people's way of seeing time, Eva said. I'll carry that understanding with me. Lyra's expression grew solemn. I want to perform the life-binding ritual with you before you go. Eva's smile froze. She knew enough about Sylvan culture to recognize that this was no small request. The life-binding was a serious commitment, a formal acknowledgement of paths intertwining across time and space. Lyra, I'm not sure that's appropriate. I'm leaving, and I don't know when or if I'll return to Xylos. That's why we must do it, Lyra insisted. So our paths will cross again when they are meant to, when I have reached full growth and command my own bio-vessel. The ritual asks for a promise of return. Eva hesitated. Refusing outright would cause offense, but she also couldn't commit to something she didn't fully understand. The diplomatic part of her brain rapidly calculated the least problematic response. What exactly would this ritual entail? She asked carefully. Just words and intention, Lyra said. I speak the binding phrase, and you agree to return when I reach maturity, so we may weave our paths together again. Relief washed over Eva. This seemed innocuous enough, a symbolic promise that a young Sylvan had clearly romanticized. Lyra had always been different from her peers, more impulsive, more fascinated with human ways. This was likely her way of processing Eva's departure. Very well, Eva said with a warm smile. I accept. Lyra's facial appendages quivered with excitement. She took Eva's hands in her own slender, four-fingered ones. I, Lyra of the Starweave lineage, ask that our life paths be bound across the void between stars. When I reach the time of vessel command, will you return so that we might weave our destinies into one pattern? The formal language triggered a warning somewhere in Eva's mind, but the moment felt too tender to interrupt with questions. This clearly meant a great deal to Lyra, and it would cost even nothing to play along with what was essentially a child's sentimental gesture. Sure, kid, she said, giving Lyra's hands a gentle squeeze. When you have your own bioship to command, I'll come back and we'll weave our paths together. Maybe even get space married. She added the last part with a light laugh, a small joke to defuse the intensity of the moment. Lyra's eyes widened, and for a moment, Eva worried she'd offended her. But then the young Sylvan's face broke into a radiant smile. The binding is accepted, she said solemnly. Until our paths cross again, Captain Eva Rostova. She released Eva's hands and melted back into the crowd, leaving Eva with a strange feeling of having missed something important. But there was no time to dwell on it. Other dignitaries approached, and the evening continued with farewells and final diplomatic pleasantries. The next morning, as Eva's transport lifted off from Xylos' surface, she gazed down at the violet forests receding beneath her. She thought briefly of Lyra and their strange exchange, feeling a pang of fondness for the unusual young Sylvan. But as the spacecraft breached the atmosphere and the curvature of the alien world came into view, Eva's thoughts turned to her next assignment. The galaxy was vast, and her career as a diplomatic xenolinguist was just beginning. The memory of the life-binding ritual faded, becoming just one of many curious cultural experiences from her time on Xylos. A sweet, if slightly awkward, farewell from a young alien who had perhaps grown too attached to her human teacher. What Eva couldn't see, as her transport ship engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared into the depths of space, was Lyra standing in the ceremonial grove, eyes fixed on the sky, facial appendages extended toward the stars. The young Sylvan's hand rested on a small living recorder, where she had stored every detail of the binding ritual, including the exact words of Eva's promise. Until our paths cross again, she whispered to the empty sky, I will be ready. In the years that followed, Eva Rostova's career flourished. Her experience on Xylos established her reputation as a skilled xenodiplomat with a particular talent for navigating complex cultural dynamics. She moved through a series of increasingly prestigious postings, mediating a territorial dispute between mining colonies in the TRAPPIST system, establishing first contact protocols with the Nomadic Axiom Collective, representing Earth's interests during the tense Proxima Accords. With each new challenge, her reputation grew, as did her rank. Commander Rostova became Captain Rostova. Captain Rostova became Admiral Rostova. The eager young linguist matured into a formidable diplomatic force, known for her pragmatic approach to interspecies relations and her ability to find workable solutions in seemingly impossible situations. Occasionally, something would trigger a memory of her time on Xylos, a particular shade of violet, perhaps, or a ceremonial phrase that echoed sylvan cadences. In these moments, she would think fleetingly of the strange, beautiful world with its ancient forests and long-lived inhabitants. She would remember the young sylvan, Lyra, with her unusual fascination for human ways and her earnest performance of the life-binding ritual. But these were passing thoughts, quickly subsumed by the demands of her current mission, the complexities of whatever crisis required her attention. The galaxy was not growing more stable with time, and skilled diplomats were always in short supply. While Eva navigated the stars and the intricate dance of interspecies politics, Lyra of the Starweave lineage pursued her own path with singular focus. Unlike many young Sylvans, who spent decades contemplating their specialty before committing to a discipline, Lyra knew precisely what she wanted, the same perfect command of English. The day of our reunion has arrived, just as the life-binding promised. Eva maintained her diplomatic smile, though uncertainty flickered through her. Commander Lyra, it's remarkable to see how you've flourished. Your achievements are impressive. I have fulfilled my part of the binding, Lyra said, gesturing to her biovessel. I command my own ship, as you foresaw, and you have returned, as promised. There was something in Lyra's tone, an expectancy that made Eva uneasy. Before she could respond, however, Elder Thalos intervened. The formal welcome reception awaits. We will speak more of personal matters after diplomatic necessities are addressed. The reception proceeded smoothly, with both sides expressing appropriate concern over the stellar disturbance affecting hyperspace lanes and commitment to finding a mutually beneficial solution. Eva performed her role with practiced ease, but throughout the evening, she found her attention repeatedly drawn to Lyra, who watched her with unwavering focus from across the room. When the formal proceedings concluded, Eva was not surprised when Lyra approached her. "Would you walk with me in the garden?" the Sylvan commander asked. "There is much we should discuss privately." Eva nodded, sensing the importance of this conversation. They strolled together through a carefully tended space where earth plants grew alongside Xylos vegetation, a living symbol of cooperation between their species. "You don't remember the details of our binding, do you?" Lyra asked without preamble. Eva hesitated, then decided honesty was the best approach. "I remember you performing a ritual before I left. The life binding, you called it. I agreed to return when you commanded your own ship, and you offered to space marry me." Lyra's facial appendages rippled in what Eva now recognized as amusement. Eva felt a flush of embarrassment. "I may have made a small joke. I didn't realize that life-binding rituals are sacred vows to Sylvans, that they transcend death itself in our culture, that your casual words would be interpreted as a formal acceptance of a life partnership proposal." Eva stopped walking. "Lyra, I had no intention of misleading you. I was trying to be kind to someone I thought of as a child saying goodbye." "I understand that now," Lyra said, her expression softening. "I've studied human communication patterns extensively. I know you did not intend a formal commitment." Relief washed through Eva. "Then we can simply clarify the misunderstanding and move forward with the negotiations." Lyra's facial appendages stilled. "It is not that simple, Admiral. While I understand your intent, the fact remains that a life binding was performed and witnessed. In Sylvan culture, such bonds cannot be casually broken without grave consequences." "What kind of consequences?" Eva asked, diplomatic instincts immediately alert to potential complications. "The dishonor would fall not just on me personally, but on my entire lineage. The Starweave Keepers would lose standing among the Sylvan houses. More importantly, it would cast doubt on all agreements made between humans and Sylvans. If a sacred binding can be broken, what value have trade agreements or territorial treaties?" Eva absorbed this information with growing concern. What had seemed like an innocent cultural misunderstanding now threatened the very diplomatic mission she had been sent to complete. "What options do we have?" she asked. "I can't actually marry you, Lyra. Our species, our lives, our duties, they're completely incompatible. Perhaps not as incompatible as you believe, Lyra replied. But I am not demanding immediate fulfillment of the binding. I am proposing a comprehension challenge. Explain. A series of shared trials designed to test compatibility and understanding. Through these challenges, either a true bond will form, strengthening our commitment, or an honorable path of release will become clear. It is the traditional way to resolve binding disputes without causing cultural offense. Eva considered the proposal. A diplomatic disaster loomed if she refused outright, but committing to an unknown Sylvan ritual carried its own risks. These challenges, what would they entail? How long would they take? 3 tasks, completed within the same time frame as your scheduled negotiations. They would test our ability to work as partners, to trust one another, to bridge the gap between our species. Eva weighed her options. The comprehension challenge seemed the least problematic path forward, a way to honor Sylvan customs while potentially finding a culturally acceptable exit from a commitment she had never intended to make. Very well, she said. I accept the comprehension challenge, but understand that my primary duty remains the successful negotiation of new hyperspace routes. Lyra's facial appendages rippled with what Eva interpreted as relief. The challenges will not interfere with your duties. In fact, they may provide insights that prove useful in the negotiations. As they returned to the reception, Eva felt a complex mixture of emotions. Frustration at finding herself in this situation, curiosity about the Sylvan commander Lyra had become, and a grudging admiration for the determination that had brought them to this moment. What she couldn't know was that across the room, Elder Thelos was engaged in intense conversation with another Sylvan whose facial appendages were trimmed in the traditional style of the Deep Roots faction, conservatives who viewed any integration with short-lived outsiders as a threat to Sylvan purity. The human has accepted the challenge, Thelos was saying. We must proceed carefully. This abomination of a binding must not be allowed to strengthen, the Deep Roots representative replied. The Starweave lineage has become too influential, too open to alien contamination. Their hybrid technologies threaten our way of life. What do you propose? The stellar disturbance is our creation, a bioengineered phenomenon designed to sever xylos from human interference. When the comprehension challenge fails, as it must, we will ensure the blame falls on the humans. Xylos will return to isolation, as nature intended. Thalos's facial appendages twitched with concern. Tampering with stellar forces violates ancient taboos. Desperate times require desperate measures. The ancient ways must be preserved, whatever the cost. As Eva retired to her quarters that night, she was unaware of the deeper currents swirling beneath the diplomatic surface. Currents that would transform a personal predicament into a crisis that threatened both their species. The first challenge began at dawn the following day. Eva met Lyra at the edge of what humans had nicknamed the Luminous Forest, a particularly dense region of Xylos' native vegetation, where bioluminescent flora created complex, seemingly intelligent patterns of light. The path of shared perception, Lyra explained, holding out what appeared to be a living circlet. This challenge requires us to navigate the forest using only Sylvan symbiotic technology. The neural connector will link our sensory perceptions, allowing you to see through my eyes and me through yours. Eva eyed the organic device with apprehension. Is it safe for human neural systems? I designed it myself, with human compatibility in mind. Lyra's facial appendages rippled with what Eva was beginning to recognize as pride. It's an example of the hybrid technology my lineage has pioneered. After a moment's hesitation, Eva accepted the circlet. When placed on her head, it adjusted automatically, tendrils gently making contact with her temples. There was a momentary sensation of pressure, then a rush of alien perception flooded her consciousness. The forest transformed before her eyes. What had appeared as merely beautiful now revealed itself as an intricate communication network. Patterns of light that had seemed random resolved into complex messages, warnings about terrain changes, indicators of underground water sources, signals between different species of plants and the creatures that depended on them. This is Extraordinary, Eva breathed. Move forward, Lyra's voice guided her, both aloud and somehow within Eva's mind. Let the forest speak to you. They began walking, Eva following Lyra's lead, but gradually contributing her own observations. The human perspective, more attuned to immediate physical threats, quicker to identify patterns that broke established rhythms, complemented Lyra's deeper understanding of the forest's biological language. When they encountered a section where the light patterns had gone dark and disturbing, Eva instinctively stopped. Something's wrong here. Lyra paused. Yes, this section should be vibrant with communication. Eva knelt, examining the ground with both human intuition and the enhanced perception granted by the symbiotic circlet. There, she pointed to a nearly invisible disturbance in the soil. Something has been buried here recently. Together, they carefully excavated the spot, uncovering a small mechanical device emitting a subtle frequency that disrupted the forest's natural communications. This is not Sylvan technology, Lyra said, facial appendages rigid with concern. Nor is it standard human tech, Eva replied, examining the device. But it incorporates elements of both. They completed the forest traverse, finding two more disruptive devices before reaching their destination. Ancient Sylvan biostructure that served as both observation post and natural sanctuary. The shared navigation had required constant communication and trust, with each contributing unique insights that the other lacked. As Lyra removed the neural connector, Eva felt a strange sense of loss as the enhanced perception faded. You did well, Lyra said. Few non-Sylvans could have adapted so quickly to our way of sensing. And few Sylvans would have identified those devices so efficiently, Eva acknowledged. We make an effective team. The moment the words left her mouth, Eva realized their implications. This was precisely the point of the challenge, to demonstrate their complementary abilities, their potential for genuine partnership. She had played directly into the ritual's purpose. Yet she couldn't deny the exhilaration she had felt during their shared journey, or the growing curiosity about the Sylvan commander who had once been an eager young student. There was a depth to Lyra, a brilliant adaptability combined with profound Sylvan wisdom, that Eva found increasingly compelling. The devices we found, Eva said, returning to safer professional ground. They appeared deliberately placed to disrupt forest communications. Could they be related to the stellar phenomenon affecting hyperspace lanes? The technology is similar to experimental prototypes my lineage abandoned decades ago, Lyra confirmed. Someone has modified them, combining them with non-Sylvan components. We should report this to both our delegations immediately. As they returned to the diplomatic compound, Eva found herself watching Lyra with new interest. The Sylvan moved with a fluid grace that suggested both physical power and conscious restraint. Her facial appendages, more expressive than those of other Sylvans Eva had known, reflected subtle emotional shifts that would be imperceptible to most humans, but which Eva found herself increasingly able to read. The second challenge will begin tomorrow, Lyra said as they parted. The harmony of vessel and void. We will pilot my ship together. Eva nodded, already anticipating the experience with unexpected eagerness. Until tomorrow, then. That evening, as she reported their findings to her human colleagues, Eva carefully omitted any mention of the neural connection experience or her growing fascination with Lyra. She focused instead on the suspicious devices and their potential link to the stellar disturbances. Someone wants to disrupt communication, she concluded, not just between species but within Xylos itself. The question is why. Meanwhile, in another part of the compound, Lyra faced intense questioning from a council of Sylvan elders. The human completed the first challenge successfully? Elder Delos asked. Yes, her adaptability exceeded even my expectations. A elder with deep roots markings leaned forward. And you still believe this binding serves our people's interests? A union with a creature whose entire lifespan is but a moment in a true Sylvan life. The Ephemera has its own wisdom, Lyra replied calmly. Admiral Rostova sees patterns and possibilities that we, with our longer perspective, might miss. Today's discovery proves this. Or perhaps it proves that humans bring disruption wherever they go, the deep roots Elder countered. These devices conveniently appear just as humans return to our world. The technology is partially based on Sylvan designs, Lyra pointed out. No human could have created them without Sylvan assistance. The debate continued, but Lyra remained steadfast. Whatever suspicions the Deep Roots faction might harbor, she had seen firsthand the potential of genuine partnership with Eva. Tomorrow's challenge would provide even greater proof if they survived it. The ephemeral harmony hung in low orbit above Xylos, a breathtaking fusion of biological engineering and mathematical precision. As Eva boarded the living vessel, she noticed immediately how it differed from traditional Sylvan bioships. While still fundamentally organic, Lyra's command incorporated elements clearly inspired by human spacecraft design. More defined control interfaces, acceleration couches shaped to accommodate various physiologies, displays that presented information in multiple sensory formats. "You've created something truly unique," Eva said, running her hand along a console that seemed to pulse gently beneath her touch. "The ship responds to both neural and physical inputs," Lyra explained. "Traditional Sylvan vessels require a deep psychic connection that only our species can achieve. The Harmony accepts multiple interface methods. You built it with non-Sylvan pilots in mind." Lyra's facial appendages rippled in what Eva now recognized as the equivalent of a smile. "I built it with you in mind, Admiral." Before Eva could process the implications of this statement, Lyra continued. "Today's challenge will take us through the Shattered Belt, the asteroid field surrounding Xylos' smallest moon. Normally, the passage would be routine, but the stellar anomaly has increased gravitational fluctuations, making navigation treacherous." "And we'll pilot together?" Eva asked. "Yes. I will maintain the ship's biological functions and navigation, while you handle defensive systems and emergency protocols. We must achieve perfect synchronization to safely traverse the belt." As they settled into their respective control positions, Lyra extended an interface tendril toward Eva. "This will connect you to the ship's defensive systems." The sensation is similar to yesterday's neural connector, but more focused. Eva accepted the connection and immediately felt the ship's awareness merge with her own. Unlike mechanical vessels she had commanded, the ephemeral harmony seemed almost to welcome her consciousness, adapting its interfaces to accommodate her thought patterns. "Ready when you are," she said, surprised by the confidence in her voice. Lyra initiated launch procedures, and the living ship responded with elegant precision. They ascended through Xylos' atmosphere, the viewports adjusting automatically to filter the changing light conditions. As they approached the Shattered Belt, Eva's tactical training kicked in, her mind cataloging potential threats and escape routes. "The ship can respond to your threat assessments," Lyra explained. "Think clearly about optimal defensive pathways, and the Harmony will translate your intentions into action." The first asteroids appeared ahead, and Eva focused her thoughts on evasive patterns. The ship responded instantly, weaving between the rocky masses with fluid grace. She felt a rush of exhilaration as the mental connection deepened, allowing her to anticipate and neutralize threats almost before they fully registered. "We're approaching the densest section," Lyra warned. "Gravitational fluctuations will increase." As if on cue, the ship's sensors detected a wave of distortion rippling through the belt. Asteroids began to shift unpredictably, their trajectories calculated by the ship's biological computers suddenly rendered useless. Switching to direct neural piloting, Lyra announced, "Eva, I need you to focus entirely on defensive measures. Don't try to anticipate. React to what you perceive in the moment." Eva had never experienced anything like the next 20 minutes. As Lyra guided the living vessel through the chaotic asteroid field, Eva's consciousness seemed to expand, encompassing the entire defensive system. She felt rather than saw incoming threats, directing the ship's protective measures with instinctive precision. They moved as a single entity, Lyra, Eva, and the ephemeral Harmony, responding to each new danger with perfect coordination. When a particularly massive asteroid suddenly fragmented before them, Eva didn't need to communicate her defensive strategy to Lyra. The Sylvan commander was already adjusting their course to complement Eva's response. Finally, they emerged from the shattered belt, the ship automatically running diagnostics on its biological systems. Minor damage to the outer membranes, Lyra reported. Already being repaired. That was exceptional piloting, Admiral. Eva was about to respond when alarm signals flooded her consciousness through the neural interface. Multiple objects approaching rapidly. Configurations suggest pursuit vessels. 3 ships had appeared from behind the moon, accelerating quickly toward the ephemeral Harmony. Their design was unmistakably Sylvan, but with modifications that gave them a predatory appearance. Deep Roots vessels, Lyra said, facial appendages rigid with alarm. They shouldn't be here. Unauthorized military craft are forbidden in Xylo's space. Hostile intent? Eva asked, already preparing defensive systems. Unclear. Lyra's response was cut short as the lead pursuer fired, the energy blast striking the Harmony's port side. The living ship shuddered, emitting what Eva's connected mind perceived as both alarm and pain. That answers that question, Eva said grimly. Evasive maneuvers? The Harmony can't outrun military vessels, Lyra replied, her hands moving rapidly over the biological controls. Our advantage is integration. They're flying standard bioships. We're flying something new. Understanding flickered between them through the neural interface. Without needing to discuss strategy, Eva channeled power to the defensive systems while Lyra executed a series of maneuvers that would have incapacitated any human pilot with G-forces. The Harmony compensated beautifully, its living structure adapting to protect its occupants. The pursuing vessels fired again, but Eva had anticipated their targeting patterns. She directed the ship's defensive measures, a combination of energy deflection and rapidly generated biological countermeasures, to intercept the attacks. We need to get back to Xylos, Lyra said. Alert both delegations. Eva sent out an emergency signal on all diplomatic frequencies, but immediate response seemed unlikely. They were on their own. What followed was a deadly game of pursuit and evasion. The Deep Roots vessels had superior firepower, but the ephemeral Harmony, guided by its uniquely integrated command team, proved remarkably difficult to hit. Eva's tactical experience combined with Lyra's intimate knowledge of Sylvan biotechnology created a defensive approach the pursuers couldn't easily counter. As they neared Xylos' atmosphere, one of the pursuing vessels broke off, apparently unwilling to risk being identified during atmospheric entry. The remaining 2 pressed their attack with increased determination. They're trying to prevent us from reaching the surface, Lyra observed. Whatever they're planning, they don't want us interfering. A direct hit rocked the ship, and Eva felt the Harmony's pain through their connection. Biological alerts flashed across her consciousness. Critical damage to propulsion systems, atmospheric entry capabilities compromised. We can't make it back to Xylos, Lyra said, facial appendages rigid with concentration. But there's another option. Through their neural link, Eva saw Lyra's plan, a dangerous descent to the small monitoring station orbiting the nearby moon, the same one they had originally planned to visit for the 3rd challenge. It would place them far from reinforcements, but it offered their only chance of survival. Do it, Eva confirmed, redirecting the ship's remaining defensive capacity to protect their new trajectory. The Harmony responded to their combined command, executing a desperate evasive pattern while calculating the precise approach vector needed to reach the station. The pursuing vessels, perhaps recognizing their target's intentions, increased their fire rate. With a final burst of its failing propulsion system, the ephemeral Harmony surged toward the monitoring station, outpacing one pursuer but unable to shake the lead vessel. As they approached the station's docking area, Eva directed the ship's remaining defensive capabilities to protect their most vulnerable systems. They won't risk destroying the station, Lyra said. It's too valuable for monitoring the stellar phenomenon. The moment the Harmony made contact with the station's biomechanical docking system, Eva and Lyra severed their neural connections to the ship and raced through the vessel toward the airlock. Behind them, the living ship began its emergency healing protocols, diverting all remaining energy to critical repairs. The monitoring station was primarily automated, with minimal life support designed for brief inspections rather than extended habitation. As they sealed the station entrance behind them, they heard the Deep Roots vessel establishing its own docking connection on the opposite side of the structure. "We're trapped," Eva said, quickly assessing their tactical situation. "Limited escape options, unknown number of hostiles, and we're cut off from communication with our delegations." "But we have advantages they don't expect," Lyra replied, moving toward a control panel that seemed to grow from the station's wall. "This is a Starweave monitoring post. My lineage oversees the network. I have access protocols they can't override." Eva watched as Lyra interfaced with the station's systems, her facial appendages connecting directly with the biological components. "I'm sealing all internal bulkheads and redirecting life support to this section only," Lyra explained. "That will slow them down. They'll cut through eventually," Eva noted. "We need a way to communicate with Xylos or to understand what they're trying to prevent us from discovering." "The central monitoring chamber should provide both," Lyra said. "It contains direct access to the sensor network tracking the stellar phenomenon. If there's evidence of artificial manipulation, we'll find it there." As they made their way through the station's curved corridors, Eva couldn't help noticing how Lyra had instinctively matched her movement patterns, maintaining tactical spacing, checking corners before proceeding, communicating with silent hand gestures that no Sylvan would typically use. Their shared experiences through the neural interfaces had clearly affected them both, creating a level of synchronization that transcended their different physiologies and training. They reached the central chamber just as the station's security system warned of breaches at multiple bulkheads. The Deep Roots operatives were advancing faster than anticipated. The monitoring chamber was dominated by a living display that showed the stellar phenomenon in real time, a swirling distortion in space that pulsed with unnatural regularity. Lyra immediately connected with the main control interface, her facial appendages rippling with concentration as she accessed the sensor data. "It's definitely artificial," she confirmed after a moment. "The pattern matches ancient Sylvan biomanipulation techniques, forbidden technologies from before our modern conservation ethics were established." "Can you determine who's controlling it?" Eva asked, keeping watch on the chamber's entrances while trying to make sense of the alien displays. "The control signals are coming from..." Lyra's facial appendages stiffened in shock. "From this station. This isn't just a monitoring post. It's the control center for the entire phenomenon." Eva processed this revelation quickly. So the Deep Roots faction created the stellar disturbance to disrupt hyperspace lanes. And now they're trying to prevent us from discovering their involvement. "Not just disruption," Lyra said, delving deeper into the data. "The phenomenon is growing exponentially. According to these projections, within days it will completely isolate Xylos from all hyperspace access. My people would be cut off from the galactic community for decades until new routes could be safely mapped." Giving the isolationists exactly what they want, Eva concluded. "Can you shut it down?" "I can try, but..." The chamber door burst open. Four Sylvans entered, each wearing the distinctive trimmed facial appendages of the Deep Roots faction and carrying energy weapons unlike any Eva had seen before. Clearly biotechnology weaponized in violation of Sylvan ethical codes. "Step away from the controls," ordered the lead figure, whom Eva recognized with surprise as a member of the Sylvan diplomatic delegation. "Your interference ends now." Lyra stood her ground. "Elder Melis." So the Deep Roots conspiracy reaches even into the diplomatic corps. "It is no conspiracy to protect our people from contamination," Melis replied. "For millennia, Sylvans lived in harmony with Xylos. Then humans arrived with their metal ships and ephemeral perspectives, seducing the young and weak-minded with promises of technological advancement. Integration has benefited both our species," Lyra argued. "The exchange of knowledge has led to abominations like your hybrid vessel," Melis cut in, And now you seek to bind yourself to a human whose entire existence will be but a moment in a true Sylvan life. Your lineage has forgotten what it means to be Sylvan. Eva assessed their options. The Deep Roots operatives had them outnumbered and outgunned, but their attention was focused primarily on Lyra. The neural connection they had shared during their challenges had given Eva insights into Sylvan physiology and psychology that few humans possessed, including knowledge of particular vulnerabilities. This stellar disruption will harm Sylvans as much as humans, Eva said, carefully shifting her position. Trade will collapse. Knowledge exchange will end. Xylos will stagnate in isolation. A necessary purification, Melis declared. After the short-lived races forget us, we will emerge stronger, purer. And what of the damage to Xylos itself? Lyra asked. The biomanipulation technology you're using disrupts not just space, but the living systems of our world. Already the luminous forest shows signs of communication failure. A flicker of uncertainty passed through the facial appendages of the other Deep Roots operatives. This information was clearly new to them. Eva caught Lyra's eye, a plan forming between them without need for words. Their shared experiences through the challenges had created a connection that transcended normal communication. Eva gave an almost imperceptible nod. The evidence is in the station's biological systems, Lyra continued, subtly shifting her position to mirror Eva's movements. The same disruption technology affecting hyperspace is already spreading through Xylos' ecosystem. You've been deceived, Elder Melis. Enough. Melis raised his weapon. Secure them both. Once the isolation is complete, their protests will be irrelevant. In that moment, Eva and Lyra moved as one. Eva lunged toward the nearest operative, targeting the sensitive connection points where facial appendages joined the skull. Knowledge gained through her neural connection with Lyra. The Sylvan dropped immediately, neural system temporarily overloaded. Simultaneously, Lyra extended her facial appendages to their full length, a gesture Eva had never seen before, and emitted a concentrated burst of bioluminescence directly into the visual receptors of two other operatives. They recoiled, temporarily blinded. Melis fired his weapon, but Eva had already changed direction, rolling beneath the energy burst and coming up directly beneath the Elder's guard. A precise strike to secondary nerve clusters, another insight from their shared consciousness, sent the weapon clattering to the floor. Lyra had meanwhile reconnected with the station's interface, her facial appendages working rapidly across the controls. I'm initiating an emergency shutdown of the manipulation technology, she announced. But I need time to ensure it doesn't cause a catastrophic collapse of the current hyperspace lanes. How much time? Eva asked, positioning herself between Lyra and the recovering Deep Roots operatives. 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Eva retrieved Melis's dropped weapon, quickly determining its function through its biological interface. You'll have it. What followed was a desperate holding. Action. Eva used her limited understanding of the bioweapon combined with her extensive combat training to keep the Deep Roots operatives at bay. Whenever one would attempt to circle around toward Lyra, Eva would anticipate the movement. Their neural connection had given her insights into Sylvan tactical thinking and intercept. Lyra worked feverishly at the controls, her facial appendages moving with incredible speed across the living interface. Almost there, she called. The system is resisting the shutdown sequence. Melis had recovered enough to speak. You cannot stop what we've begun, he declared. The purification of Xylos is inevitable. There is nothing pure about destroying what you claim to protect, Lyra responded without pausing her work. The Deep Roots have forgotten that growth requires adaptation. Eva deflected another attack, but the operatives were adapting to her tactics. They wouldn't be able to hold out much longer. Lyra, she called, whatever you're going to do. Done, Lyra exclaimed. The entire station shuddered as the shutdown sequence took effect. On the living display, the stellar phenomenon began to lose cohesion, its unnatural patterns dissolving into normal space-time. I've also transmitted all evidence of Deep Roots involvement to both the Sylvan High Council and the human delegation, Lyra added, and sent an emergency signal that should bring reinforcements within minutes. Meles slumped in defeat as his operatives lowered their weapons, recognizing the futility of continued resistance. "You've doomed our species to contamination," the elder said bitterly. "No," Lyra replied, moving to stand beside Eva. "I've saved it from stagnation. Sylvans have always evolved slowly, but we do evolve. Isolation is not protection, it's extinction." Eva felt Lyra's hand slip into hers, a gesture so human it momentarily surprised her. Then she understood. The third challenge, the comprehension challenge, had been completed. Through crisis and cooperation, they had demonstrated a level of partnership that transcended species boundaries. True to Lyra's word, reinforcements arrived quickly, a joint team of human security personnel and Sylvan authorities. As the Deep Roots conspirators were taken into custody, Eva and Lyra provided a full report on the artificial nature of the stellar phenomenon and its gradual dissolution. "The hyperspace lanes should stabilize within days," Lyra concluded, "and with proper monitoring, we can ensure no similar manipulation occurs in the future." Elder Thelos, who had arrived with the reinforcement team, regarded them both with what Eva interpreted as profound respect. "The Starweave lineage has served Xylos well today," the elder acknowledged, "as has our human ally." Turning to Eva, Thelos added, "It seems the life binding has proven its worth." Eva felt a moment of panic at the reminder of her unwitting commitment, but looking at Lyra standing proud and capable beside her, the panic subsided. Something had changed during their shared ordeals, something neither of them had anticipated. As they returned to Xylos aboard a rescue vessel, the ephemeral Harmony being too damaged for immediate flight, Eva found a moment to speak privately with Lyra. About this life binding, she began awkwardly. "I think we need to discuss what happens next." Lyra's facial appendages rippled with what Eva now recognized as gentle amusement. "The comprehension challenge has been met," she said. "According to tradition, this provides clarity on the path forward." "And what clarity has it provided you?" Eva asked carefully. "That what began as a misunderstanding has become something genuine," Lyra replied. "I pursued the binding because of a child's fascination and a cultural obligation. But these challenges have revealed true compatibility, a partnership that benefits both of us and potentially both our peoples." Eva considered this. The neural connections they had shared during the challenges had created a bond unlike anything she had experienced before. She understood Lyra in ways that transcended normal interaction, and Lyra understood her equally well. "My life will still be but a moment in yours," Eva pointed out. "The ephemer has its own wisdom," Lyra said, echoing her earlier words to the elders. "Intensity can balance duration. And who knows what medical advances might come from greater cooperation between our species." Eva found herself smiling. "Are you proposing to me properly this time?" "I am proposing that we explore the possibility," Lyra clarified. "Not as a result of a misunderstood childhood ritual, but as two adults who have found unexpected common ground." The weeks that followed were filled with diplomatic activity. The exposure of the Deep Roots conspiracy led to significant political restructuring within Sylvan society. The hyperspace lanes gradually stabilized as the artificial disruption dissipated, and negotiations for improved routes proceeded smoothly under Eva's guidance. Her superiors in the human diplomatic corps were initially skeptical about her developing personal relationship with a Sylvan commander, but the success of the mission and the unprecedented insights gained through their collaboration eventually won official approval, albeit with extensive documentation requirements and regular psychological evaluations. Lyra's lineage, the Starweave Keepers, formally acknowledged Eva as an honored ally, granting her a ceremonial position that effectively recognized the binding without imposing all its traditional obligations. This compromise satisfied cultural requirements while acknowledging the unique nature of their relationship. The ephemeral harmony was repaired and enhanced, incorporating lessons learned during the conflict. It became a symbol of successful integration between human and Sylvan technologies, with several similar vessels commissioned for joint scientific and exploratory missions. 3 months after the confrontation at the monitoring station, Eva and Lyra stood in the ceremonial grove where they had first performed the life-binding ritual 15 years earlier. Around them gathered representatives from both species, human diplomats and military personnel, alongside Sylvan elders and members of the Starweave lineage. The ceremony they had designed together was neither a traditional human wedding nor a standard Sylvan binding ritual, but something new, a path-weaving ceremony that acknowledged both the temporary nature of human life and the extended perspective of Sylvan existence. Elder the Los presided, having become a strong advocate for continued integration after the Deep Roots incident. We gather to witness the formal weaving of 2 paths that first crossed in this very grove, the Elder intoned. Though these paths originate in different worlds and follow different rhythms, they have chosen to intertwine for whatever distance they may share. Eva and Lyra exchanged vows, Eva promising to bring human intensity and adaptability to their partnership, Lyra offering Sylvan patience and perspective in return. They exchanged tokens that represented their respective cultures, Eva receiving a living brooch similar to the one she had been given upon her first departure from Xylos, but now genetically keyed to her specific biochemistry. Lyra accepting a platinum medallion engraved with star charts showing the position of both Earth and Xylos. The binding is complete, the Los declared. May your woven path bring wisdom to both your peoples. Later, as twilight painted Xylos' sky in shades of amber and violet, Eva and Lyra stood on the bridge of the newly repaired ephemeral harmony. Through the viewport, stars began to appear, distant suns around which other species might be having their own first encounters, their own cultural misunderstandings, their own moments of unexpected connection. When I made that joke about space marriage all those years ago, Eva said this was literally the last outcome I expected. Lyra's facial appendages rippled with amusement. The universe has a strange way of weaving paths together. Perhaps there was wisdom even in your human humor. I still can't believe you designed your entire career around a childhood promise, Eva marveled. Building this ship, mastering bioengineering. Sylvans commit deeply, Lyra replied simply. Though I admit, as I grew older, my motivation evolved. What began as a child's fascination became a genuine desire to bridge our worlds, to show that the ephemer could complement Sylvan eternity rather than threaten it. Eva took Lyra's hand, still somewhat amazed at how natural the gesture had become between them. So what now? We have hyperspace lanes to monitor, cultural exchange programs to establish, a ship to command, and a universe to explore, Lyra added. The Deep Roots faction was wrong about isolation. The future, for both our species, lies in connection, in a weaving together of different perspectives. As the ephemeral harmony prepared to depart on its inaugural mission as an official cross-species vessel, Eva reflected on how a single careless joke had set in motion events that transformed not only her life, but potentially the relationship between 2 civilizations. The human who had joked about marrying a little alien girl now stood beside the commander that child had become, their paths genuinely intertwined in ways neither could have imagined. Ready for departure? Lyra asked as they settled into their command positions. Eva smiled as the neural interface connected them once again, thoughts and perceptions flowing between human and Sylvan consciousness with practiced ease. Ready, she confirmed. Let's see where our path leads next. The ephemeral harmony lifted from Xylos' surface, carrying its uniquely bonded command team toward the stars that had once seemed to separate their worlds but now served as beacons guiding their shared journey forward.